Hello and welcome to the Klassiki podcast. I'm your host, Sam Goff. Klassiki is your window into the world of Eastern European film. Subscribers gain access to our library of classic and contemporary titles, as well as filmmaker interviews, video introductions, program notes, and more. You can sign up for a free trial today at klassiki.online. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to subscribe in your podcast app of choice. Thank you. So, welcome back everyone. It's season 6 of the show, How the Time Has Flown. Thank you so much to all our returning listeners and welcome to our new ones. We've got 10 episodes lined up, including some great interviews to tie in with the programming coming up this spring on Klassiki. So hit that subscribe button and remember you can get in touch with us at podcast@klassiki.online with all your thoughts, comments and complaints. Right now on Klassiki, we're celebrating an icon with our collection Perspectives on Parajanov, which features Zara Jian's revelatory new documentary, I Will Revenge This World with Love. Against the backdrop of the war on Ukraine and ethnic cleansing in Nagorno-Karabakh, Zara's film explores the example of artistic and political courage that Parajanov set for the modern world. We're presenting her documentary alongside the great man's own final two features, The Legend of Suram Fortress, which draws on a Georgian national myth, and Ashik Karib, which is Parajanov's tribute to the folk poetry of Azerbaijan and Persia. So, to kick off season 6, I asked Zara Jian to join me on the pod to discuss the eternal appeal of Sergei Parajanov, where his cosmopolitan work sits in a world increasingly prey to brutal national power plays, and her personal response to his late career masterpieces, produced at a time when he was in ill health after years in and out of prison, but determined nonetheless to leave his mark on the cinema of the Caucasus. Check out the links in the show description for all sorts of Parajanov goodness, including our new collection, more of his films and essays and past pod episodes. Zara Jian, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, the pleasure is all ours. So, yeah, we're here to talk about your own film, I Will Revenge the World with Love, and about Parajanov more broadly. And one thing that's really important about your film in its kind of conception is that it kind of came out of this very particular historical moment, one that we're still in, although it's been a few years now since, the idea was originally conceived and realized. So I wondered, to start with, could you maybe take us back to that moment in 2022 and your decision to return to Armenia from Russia and the context of the war and Artsakh and so on? Can you take us back to that moment and that moment of kind of conception of the film?
Sure. Thank you for your question. So in 2020, as we know, we had this war in Artsakh. It was for me brutal occupation from neighborhood country called Azerbaijan. I was in Armenia. I came to Armenia at that moment to participate in that war. I mean, participation was about to be helpful in any case that I could. So, and me and my team, we were working with kids, we were trying to rescue them and give some psychological help, in that moment. So that event affected me a lot, actually, my psyche, of course. At that moment, I was living in Moscow, but I couldn't forget this situation. And actually, I was a very distractive person at that moment. I couldn't see how people smiling, having fun. I know it's kind of not adequate, but at the same time, I couldn't understand that when I saw the genocide in front of my eyes in my country, one more time. And the thing is that I used to live this until 2022 in Russia. And then this Ukrainian war started. That was the moment when I said enough is enough, because about my war in my country in 2020, I was blaming not only Armenians, but also Russian government, because we were in Soviet Union. They had responsibility in this conflict, and they didn't want to resolve this. At the same time, I want to say that I'm not against Russia or Russia culture person, because I also grew up with this culture and with this language too. Yes, I don't accept this dictator, and I don't want to use his name honestly. And I think that he betrayed not only Armenia, but also Russian people with his actions. Anyway, when I came back in October in 2022, I came to Armenia, where my mother lives, and step by step, I was trying to somehow find a solution for myself. And I had a guest from other country, and they asked me to take them to some good place, good museum in Armenia. And of course, I took them to Parajanov House Museum, where I have been a lot. But at that day, everything was special because of perception, I guess. And when I came in this museum, I was stuck in front of his self-portrait, where Parajanov called himself "son of three nations."
Mm.
He was a very cosmopolitan person. And at that period, I was looking around to my friends, to the world, and I saw this uh, destructive behavior from also younger generation, who are talented people, but they are using themselves, being bloggers, political bloggers, and being not helpful but instrument of this dirty geopolitical games.
Mm.
So, and that was for me very painful, because that's actually what I felt. I felt that I am losing myself, because I have a lot of aggression. I need revenge. And as I'm always saying, I was ready to take the gun and go to the border, even, I'm crazy. But at that moment when I was in the museum, and that's really mystery. And Prejanov in general, he's very mysterious man.
Yeah.
His friends, everyone told me that if Prejanov comes to your life, he never go back. I mean, he never leave, and that's really true. And at that moment, I understand that my feelings, it's not a solution. Uh, I need to talk through something else. And then I remembered whole life with Parajanov, his choice, because even in jail, this man was doing art.
Yeah.
And that's how he won for me. He won regimes, he won himself, he won generations. And so I have decided to talk about through with the guidance of Parajanov. That's why I'm saying that this is not a classic biopic, and I'm not the person who probably have to analyze his movies or to talk about what he wanted to say with these movies. I have my opinion, I have my feelings, but in my film, again, I did it's very difficult always to touch iconic person.
Yeah.
But at that moment, honestly, I didn't care about this. I didn't care about posing something, or being um, or posing intelligent person who is talking about Parajanov or his art. I just decided to just go with the time, how it took me on its hands, and talk about this. Because after museum, I found an interview of Parajanov before 1 year of his death. I think, yeah, 1 2 year before he died. And we always watching the movie about Parajanov, or hearing about Parajanov through the funny funny place. You know, he was
Yeah.
very funny, he was crazy. But me, in my experience, I never saw the movie where he's not a tragic person, but where he's like doing confession by himself, not through his movies, but like
Yeah.
talking confession, you know. And in that interview, I felt that. I felt that he was, how I'd say, very tender about his feelings, and he was very honest. And also, he was in such a conflict about the society, reality, and the pure nature. That interview made me to understand that past meeting present and never changed. Nothing
Right.
changed because in this interview he's talking about his film Ashik Keri,
Hmm.
and he's saying the phrase, I was shooting this film during the war in Nagorno-Karabakh, and after 30 years I was shooting this film, my film, during the war in Artsakh, Nagorno. That made me understand that really nothing changed and history repeating his tragic choices. And I've decided to talk about this. So, of course, I talk about Parajanov and his art through the voice of his friends
Yeah.
and more self confident and successful directors whom I respect a lot. I try to introduce my generation, especially, uh, and world to the Parajanov and his art as I learn about him, not through my voice, but through the voice of people who told me about him.
Yeah.
And then I jumped into present. If you saw the film, we are jumping to nowadays reality, again, guided with Parajanov topics. Yeah, that's how that all happened. I'm sorry, I think it was too long, probably.
Well, it's all saves me from asking more questions. People get to hear more from you instead of me. It's true what you say, isn't it? That Parajanov, his films are so, you can spend so long with them, but they're not really autobiographical in that sense. They don't obviously reveal anything about his life. I mean, they reveal his personality. Obviously, he's kind of artistic, his creative personality, but his life's not there. And it's interesting you using the word confession there, and I just thinking about the film that he was working on when he died in 1990 was
Yeah,
called
the
The
last one
Confession. Yeah. So I
that
mean,
he didn't finish.
in at the heart of your film is this idea that you've been talking about, that Parajanov and his, I don't know what you want to call it, his message, if you like, speaks with particular kind of clarity, right? Particular intensity to the moment that we find ourselves in. Whether that's like a moral or a political or an aesthetic message. I mean, we could get into that, but I just wondered, given that, like you say, the history behind this film goes back to maybe 2020, 2022. It was released for Parajanov Centenary in 2024. We're now in 2026. I wonder, as this horrible moment keeps dragging on longer and longer, whether your take on all of this had changed at all since, I don't know, say since the war in Ukraine started, or since the ethnic cleansing in Artsakh has been kind of carried out fully, whether your opinion now, kind of 4 years later, has changed.
Um, I don't have a white parties in this game, actually. For me, all parties in the world is black, are black. And it's very sad, actually. I don't want to be depressive with audience and talk about my opinion now because it is very hopeless. But how I'm surviving, I can talk about this. I'm surviving because I made this choice when I started to shoot this film. I'm trying to keep the feeling of love inside of me, and it's not a pathos and it's not a pathetic. I think it's for me it's very powerful to being involved in a game where the only feeling you can have it's how I'd say uh, to feel sad and being exhausted. but you are choosing love and trying to feel this feeling.
Yeah.
You know, I'm just trying to be honest. That's why I'm
Sure, sure.
finding the words to answer on this amazing question. Yeah, I think the main message of my film, for example, doesn't matter what's going on in the world. In fact, just continue do what you are doing the best, in what you are talented, and can talk through this with people, with world, with society. We can just go out and yell, but I don't think that world will hear us better, even if we will um, yell with our talented works. I'm not saying that I made talented work. I'm just saying at least to try to talk through the way which is less destructive for yourself from the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, concerning Parajanov's films, I remember, one thought I would like to share with you. I mean, it's amazing when I watched The Color of Pomegranate, for example, 3 years ago again. I found that he's probably doing parallels between him and Sayat Nova character,
Yeah.
and he's actually Sayat Nova, and that became for me kind of autobiographic film also, within these parallels.
Well,
My
a lot of his films, right, are about artists. The Sayat
Yeah,
Nova, the poet in Color of Pomegranates, or Ashik Karib, the character Ashik
yeah,
Karib. He is a wandering bard.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, that the artist is part of the fabric of the film.
yeah. The most favorite film for me. I don't know why. I mean, of course it's deserved, but for me the most is The Legend of Suram Fortress. I love this film very much. I don't know. For me, it's amazing balance between nature, poetic language, and very, very, very much about real life that, especially in our region.
Yeah.
I mean, this film took me to my childhood. I'm living my childhood watching this film. I love this film very much. And I know that you probably gonna screen this film also.
Yeah, well, I was going to come to Suram Fortress and
Okay.
to Ashik Karib because yeah, like we're really
Mhm.
glad to be able to present those two films in particular alongside your film, and I think they really speak to your film.
Mhm.
I just want
Mhm.
before we get to Suram Fortress, which is about Georgia.
Mhm.
I just wanted to just say about your film that when I was watching it, I had in mind that famous quote from Parajanov where he says, "Everyone knows I have." I'm going to get the quote wrong now. Everyone knows I have three motherlands. I was born in Georgia. I worked in Ukraine, and I will die in Armenia. And one of the things about Parajanov that's so incredible is that he's so important to so many different countries' film histories. But I was just thinking about that quote because the film is literally about a homecoming to Armenia. We see this kind of reconstruction of your journey to Armenia in 2022, and yeah, I just wondered. This
Going
is
to
an
die. I hope I'm not going to die
well.
very soon.
Um, I just wondered about that idea of homecoming and whether you could briefly, because it's an impossible question, just touch on this idea of Parajanov and Armenia, because, like I say, he's associated with so many different countries because he was,
Yeah.
like you said, a super cosmopolitan guy. So, how does a cosmopolitan guy like that become so important for specific individual nations like Armenia? I guess that's the question.
I can answer on this question through my own experience
Sure, sure.
again. It's I was the person was who live. I was running from my motherland when I was a teenage. At that moment, we had very. dictatorship government in my country, and I was feeling that I'm from really very strong, powerful, creative, intelligent nation, but what was around me at that period of time, it was very difficult period here after Soviet Union was crushed. It became very criminal,
Mm.
19th, in here, and it was very. I mean, I feel. I knew. I was feeling that I'm from really very uh, old country with amazing culture, with but something wrong now.
Yeah.
It's not match with reality right now. And I, at that moment, because I mean, I wanted to go to United States, but it wasn't possible. Visa, money, and stuff. And the closest place where I could fly and find a work for me, it was Moscow, which I did. Which I did, and then all the time I was trying to argue with my pure nature and culture and country where I was born. I was like a person who was like uh, going after freedom, like independence, like war, like all the stuff that we have in our teenage period. And I got some experience abroad. Then I moved to Los Angeles. I used to live there more than 3 years, and then again Russia. And then my father did. I returned to Armenia, Russia. I mean, but this year in 2022, I think this perception coming after 30 years old, I felt different in my country. I felt that uh, ac- actually my culture, my traditions, this is the foundation of my freedom.
Right.
I I didn't analyze this. It just came as a feeling. I just felt it, and Parajanov helped me a lot in this, a lot. That my pure freedom, this is when I have this foundation in terms of culture and yeah, my ancestors. And I think probably maybe uh, that's what felt Parajanov in some moment, because being Armenian, uh, it's not only about nationality or country, or it's something else. Honestly, I can't explain this. I just, in this my age, when I came back in 2022, I just felt this, and
Mm.
I was so hungry. I started to learn more and more. I became hungry. When I felt it, I became hungry of it.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah. Prajanov was an artist. And I think maybe for him, borders were more not like in a frame, but more out of the frame, because he was an artist and he could see like Persian, for example, culture as something which was fantastic for him, and he could mix it with
Right.
Armenian
Right.
culture and and like give it to audience, to the world, and it was amazing, it was beautiful, and no one was thinking about to argue, is it Persian or is it Armenian or
Right.
is it like, it was just his point of view and it was beautiful. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, it's that idea, right, that confidence in one's own kind of origins creates openness to other cultures and experiences. And I do think, like, in a lot of Parajanov's films about like the Caucasus in particular, they do tap into the fact that the Caucasus is a place that has blended so many different cultures over time. Different empires, different kind of
No,
migrations,
yeah.
different religions, and so on. Well, I did want to. You mentioned Saram Fortress there, and I did want to kind of get your take on these two films that of Parajanov's that we're going to be presenting alongside yours, and they are his final two features: The Legend of Suran Fortress and Ashik Karib. And I don't know, to me it seems, maybe you disagree, but obviously all Parajanov's films are very beloved, but it seems to me like these two films are maybe slightly less well known or less renowned compared to earlier films from the 60s like Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors and Color of Pomegranates. Maybe that's like an Anglophone thing, I don't know. But you started saying there that Suran Fortress was your favorite. I could you just pick up that thread? You were saying that it for you it's there's a connection there with your childhood, which is interesting because it's very specifically a film about Georgia and the Georgian nation
Yeah,
and so on.
yeah. I feel in this film, interesting, the cost of traditions. And my first perception was, of course, colors, music, even stillness in this film, which I liked a lot. And I like how he described this Georgian mood because actually I like Georgia a lot and Georgian people too. We are very friendly with them. I mean, I'm not talking about again government and stuff, politics, just
Sure, sure, sure.
yeah. Suran Fortress, yeah, it's the cost of tradition. Actually, this is the main word I would like to say, and the parallel. Again, this film about again today for me. For example, my generation now trying to bear himself to give a chance to the new generation to survive this chaotic time, and to survive the land.
So this is just if anyone hasn't seen it yet, which obviously you should watch it, but that's a reference to the titular legend is about this fortress that's going to collapse, and the only way that it can be saved is if someone is bricked up in the foundations, and that's the
Yeah.
kind of sacrifice that happens at the end of the film. So just to
Yeah.
clarify what
And
you're
in my
referring to there.
film, yeah, as you could see, I used like different frames from his films
Hmm.
to somehow talk about nowadays reality through his frames. I hope I hope that he's not angry and he blessed it. Actually, I feel, or maybe I hope about his blessing because the film was selected in Venice Film Festival, and it was also a very mysterious moment because I finished the post production in France in June, and I came back from Paris, and we submitted, and we got selected, and I was like, how, like Jesus, because I think it was his blessing. So yeah, and this frame when this man bury him for this church,
Yeah.
it's only this frame for me. It's a huge narrative, you know, uh, also about the present day that we are living, and this kid, yeah, and these horses, beautiful. I mean, beautiful. I love this film a lot. I always feeling responsibility when I'm talking about Parajanov's films. Honestly, it's a big responsibility. That's why I'm trying just to give a little bit of my feelings either way, then talk and
Sure, sure.
analyze the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
films. Yeah, I'm still kind of, yeah. About the Ashik Kerib, I have a very funny story if it is interesting. I mean, it's not my story, it's Cora Tsereteli's story. Yeah, I mean, first of all, we know that Ashik Kerib, the film is based on a romantic tale by Mikhail Lermontov. And this is like folk, a lot of folk in here, and the artist as a wanderer in this film, the character. But the story that I heard, and I'm sure I'm not wrong, from Cora Tsereteli, from her book, I guess. So this film was selected for the festival in Turkey, And it was a year when this Sungai pogroms was happening again in Artsakh. Very, very hard period. Again, war, again, for Karabakh, Artsakh. And Parajanov decides to go with Kora. Yes, I'm sure I'm not wrong. I hope. To Turkey.
Okay.
And before he went to the stage, Cora asked him a lot, please don't talk about Karabakh. I'm just asking him. And then Cora writing, oh my God, why I did it, whom I'm asking and what I'm asking. Like, and Prajanov went to the stage, and of course he was talking about Artsakh, Nagorno-Karabakh, about this war, about that this is wrong, and stuff. Afterwards, they are in the evening. They are going for dinner, and then they are walking through the flea market. You know, Prajanov was um, he likes a lot flea markets. He was choosing some beautiful things from there, and then he was creating a collage and stuff.
Yeah.
And at that moment, Cora found out that some six local gangs following them.
Uh-oh.
But Cora didn't tell Parajanov about it. And then when these gangs were closer, they throw a letter into Cora's pocket.
Mm-hmm.
When they returned, came to the hotel with Parajanov, Cora showed him this letter, which was about that if one more time you will talk about Karabakh, we will kill you.
Mm.
And Parajanov, when he wrote it, he became very angry and he started to yell on Cora, why didn't you tell me? I would have gotten angry at them. They would have killed me and I would have ended up like Griboyedov. You know, Griboyedov was killed in Persia.
Yeah.
And yeah, Parajanov was like, why you didn't tell me? They would kill me and I would ended up like Griboyedov, you know? I mean, it's one of the funniest and describing Parajanov's character story. Yeah, and all this happened when he was on festival with this film Ashikeri, which is actually mm, cultural unity across the Caucasus, Anatolia, Persia. You know, I mean, we can see all this in this film.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting because you like you say it's Parajanov kind of adapting this story by Lermontov, the 19th century Russian author.
Yes.
People might know Hero of Our Time, that's by Lermontov. But Lermontov was transcribing from a written version of a kind of oral epic poem, right? This form of oral
Hmm.
epic poetry that was spread across the Caucasus, Iran, Central Asia. So, like, the story
Hmm.
itself is kind of, as is often the case with Parajanov, has gone through a number of different
Exactly.
revisions, transformations, and the story itself doesn't really have a kind of national basis. Although people do talk about Ashik Karib as being Parajanov's film about Azerbaijan. He shot it outside of Baku with a lot of Azerbaijani collaborators. And I guess, if it's not too thorny a question, I mean, I'm interested in what you think about that because, the
Um,
Armenia Azerbaijan question and conflict has been at the heart of a lot of what you've been talking about here. And this
I
final
would
film
be
of his, it's a
I would be
collaboration.
probably, yeah, with this film, I would be probably now very pro-Armenian person, and I don't feel shame about this. But for me, when I watch this film, and in a moment I'm forgetting that I'm Armenian, I clearly see this character of this king, right? Very typical. He made this character very typical of that region. Uh, mm, Characters, behaviors, uh, and I feel like the main hero, this pure guy, like he tried to describe for me again. It's not about that Projanov made this decision, but for me, this is actually more about being an artist out of system.
Right.
Uh, Maybe it's very primitive, but that's what touched me in this film. And I used this frame where the mother was crying about his son. In this frame, I completely see the pictures of 1915 genocide of Armenians. This black dress of the mother of Ashik Kerry, this frame is so familiar for me with this period of time of Armenians. And one more time, I saw that doesn't matter what is the language of his film, or it's like about Azerbaijan nation or Turkey or whatever else. In each frame of Parajanov, he has his personal, and he include their culture as an Armenian, his culture as a Georgian, even Ukrainian.
Mm.
One of his friends, I'm not saying that I agree or disagree, but one of his friends, Prajanov's friends who are alive now, he said that for me, Prajanov is more an artist than director.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty that's
But,
something people say about him. Yeah.
yes, but being when I was using his frames, I was completely agree with this because I could took each frame and that could tell me a story. Uh, like we are going to the museum, watching the paintings and taking some story from this. But when I went deeper, I understand that no, he's genius director too, not only the artist, because each frame continued the previous one. For me, that's how I saw his film, and it create in general the whole story.
Well, yeah, his
uh,
genius, right, was you in being able to use cinema to kind of recreate the effects of different art forms like painting, like literature, like music,
mhm.
but in this kind of recombinated way. So his genius was his sensitivity to things like painting, but finding ways to express it that were
Yeah,
specifically cinematic.
yeah, I mean, so it's also big. uh, I'm always thankful that Armenians at that moment could find a solution and shoot this film with Parajanov, The Color of Pomegranate, even if he didn't edit this film because he was in jail at that moment. Still, this is amazing, and this is what we got, Armenia got from Parajanov as a treasure, as well as Ukraine, if we are talking about shadows. I mean, I'm watching like from the side and I understand that he gave his gratitude to the countries where he was raised, born, and with his films, with his treasures. I mean, if all artists can do the same, they can feel themselves happy.
Well, there's another lesson from Parajanov to us
Yeah,
to add to the
yeah.
long list of lessons that he left us.
So we can't ignore our, I mean, I learn also like religion from Buddha and all this stuff, how people now trying to survive with this, being infinity, being like uh, very international and no borders, no countries and stuff. But in balance, I became also with a very deep feeling that it's not consequences that we're born here on this land. We are drinking this exactly water in these mountains. This means something. And I think that Parajana felt it too. And that was his choice. And that's how he won because he accepted his originality. to be competitive with other nations with his originality, as Emir Kusturica said in this film. We are not copying. We don't have to copy other cultures. No reason. People, a lot of talented people who can talk about their reality. So why we are trying to copy them in their reality, we can tell more about this region or that region where we were born and can talk about. I mean, yeah. So I'm done. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that seems like a good point, a good lesson, a good point to end on. But we're really happy that people are going to get a chance to see your film and to explore or re-explore these Parajanov films. But Zara Jian, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.